Hi everyone and welcome to Introduction to UMG tutorial. My name is Evgeny. I'm a video game developer working mostly with gameplay and user interfaces. Today I'm going to show you how to work with UMG and how to initialize it with data. So let's begin. By the end of this tutorial, you will understand the basic UMG workflow. You will know how to create reusable widget components with exposed parameters and settings. You will know how to create user HUD. And also you will know why should you avoid using bindings in widget and how to initialize your widgets with data properly using events. For this tutorial, I'm going to use Unreal Engine 5.4 and the basic third-person template. You can follow along or download the completed project from the description. Let's begin by creating the stats component. This is a component that will hold our data like health, stamina, and mana. For now, we'll be just using health. So right-click, blueprint class, actor component, BP stats component. We need to add variables for our health, which will be current health, type float, and max health, type float. Next, we're going to add the event to deal damage to a player. First, we can remove the default events. Then right-click, custom event, deal damage. That will be our event to change our current health. We need an input parameter type float, damage amount. And we need to get our current health and subtract damage amount from it. The result of this operation should be stored in max health, so we're setting max health, but at the same time it would be nice if we can keep the current health in the range between 0 and max health. So we can use clamp float for that. Mine will be 0 and max will be max health. Last step is to print some kind of notification. For now we don't have a user interface, but we can use print string and we can use combine nodes. Wrong one. Combine string. Not combine, append, sure. And use append string to give a notification about health. So health, this will be our current value, this will be our separator text, and this will be the max health. I can copy this health here and copy this health here. So when we deal damage to a player or to whoever owns this component, we will see the notification on the screen. Our next step is to make some kind of trigger which will deal damage to a player. So for that, let's go back to our content browser, right click, blueprint class, new actor, BP damage zone. This will be just a simple overlap which will deal damage to a player. So we use box collision here. This is our damage zone. We put here. In the right part on component begin overlap, you can use this event to check if player or anyone actually enters the zone, and we can use Unreal Engine's apply damage function with a default damage system. We can just use actor and call apply damage from it. And damage amount of 10. We can promote it to variable to give us more settings, but it's not necessary in that case. Compile, save. Maybe we can enable visibility for this box. Hidden in game. We can disable it so we can see the box boundaries when we put it on below. Next, we need to set up our player character. So for that, let's go to third person, blueprints, third person character. Now this is the character that we're going to use through our tutorial. And we have to do two things here. First, we need to add our stats component. So left click on add, type stats component, and that's it. In our stats component, we've already exposed current health and max health, so we can modify these parameters for any actor which is going to use our component. Next, we have to implement damage event. So right click, type any damage. This is the default Unreal Engine damage system, and this event will be called from damage zone when someone overlaps it, in our case the player. And we have to pass the damage amount to our stats component, so it will handle the damage, do some calculation, and in the end update the UI. So drag stats component, type deal damage, that's a function that we created earlier, and just connect to damage. Input to damage, input here. Link everything, and that's it for our character for now. Let's compile and save. The last step of preparation is to actually add our damage zone to our level and check if everything is working as intended. So let's switch back to third-person map, go to content, find our damage zone, and just put it here. You can modify the scale of the zone to make it a bit bigger, and we can hit play to test everything. This is our damage zone, and when we're entering it, we're getting 75 out of 65 health. It's nice. Let's go check why it is happening. Basically, this part works okay. Deal damage. We go to stats component, and as usual, we're changing max health, but we should be changing current health. So drag it here, set, and reconnect with. You can hold Ctrl and reconnect it, or you can just use your current health, drag it, and change it here, and remove this node at all. So let's check everything again. Current health minus damage amount, clamping, setting current health. Everything is fine. Now it should be working. Our zone, 65 out of 100, 55 out of 100. Everything is perfect. That's the end of our preparation, and now we can finally switch to the UI. Our user interface is going to consist out of three parts: HUD, player stats, and stat progress bar. A HUD is a main container for every our widget. Player stats is a container for our progress bars, and stat progress bar is the progress bar with label and color indication, which we're going to use to show our health, stamina, and any other stat we can think of. Let's start by creating stat progress bar widget. Right-click, new folder UI to separate our UI from blueprints. Right-click, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, start progress bar. And this is the UMG editor. Let's take a look around. To the left, you can see a palette with different widget components which we're going to use. Also, user-created widget components, which we're actually doing right now, will also be in that palette. To the left and below, you can see the hierarchy, which will give you the outline of widget elements of the current widget. And to the right, there is a details panel with different settings for widget elements. Also, for now we are in designer, but we also can switch to graph in the right upper part of the screen. And here is where we're going to implement our logic. But for now, let's go back to the design. Let's create our progress bar. First, we need a container which we're going to use to lay out our elements. For this, we're going to use horizontal box. You can find it here or type horizontal box and drag it to hierarchy. So this is our box, and all child elements will be aligned horizontally. We need basically two elements. First is text. I'm going to use a simple text. And the second one is progress bar. Basic idea is that we're having a label which indicates a stat name or whatever, and progress bar which allows us to visualize the value. Now everything looks a bit sad, so let's start fixing things. First, we can switch from fill screen to desired to draw a widget in its desired size based on its child elements. Next, we can give our child elements proper names. This will be label, and this will be start progress bar. We can also check that is variable is enabled for both for progress bar and for text. For text is disabled, so let's enable it. This will allow us to control this variable through graph. So we can update text or to coloring based on our logic. You can also notice that progress bar is a bit too small. You can control its size with size box. It's one of the solutions which we can use. So let's right click on the progress bar, select wrap with and size box. This will wrap the progress bar with size box automatically. The other way around is to find size box in the palette, drop it here and put progress bar inside. We can click on size box, enable width override and type 200, for example, to make our progress bar a bit bigger. Also, you can preview the progress bar value by using this percent value here. When you select progress bar percent, note that it's from 0 to 1, so it says percent. It's actually 0 to 1. We're going to use it soon. The last thing to do for now is to change this text block to health. As you can see, there is a very little spacing here, so we can use padding to actually adjust the padding between elements inside the horizontal box or inside other containers. For that, we can select size box because it's the container next to a text label, and we can go here to the padding section and just add like 5 or 10 padding from the left. As you can see, everything looks way better now. You can also go back to progress bar and change fill color and opacity red, but we're going to override it later on with our settings. That's it for the basic health bar. Let's go back to our player stats widget. It's also a good idea to constantly save your project, to compile and save, and go back to third-person map and save all. Next, we're going to create a player stats widget, which will be a container holding several stats progress bar, which we just created. So, back to UI folder, right-click here, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, player stats. Player stats. This will be a very simple widget, and we're using it mostly to initialize our progress bars and hold them together. Though this is not a tutorial about deep data initialization, it's a nice approach and I like to show it to you. So this container is going to be just a vertical box with 2 of our custom progress bar that we just made. So start progress bar, search it here in the palette. We can add 1 copy and 2 copy. Second copy, of course. We need to give them proper names and we can switch from fill screen to desired. This looks way better. So let's call the first one health, the second one is stamina, and maybe we need some kind of offset, so we can use the bottom one and give it 10 padding from top. You can do it the other way around, but if we decide to collapse this stamina widget later on, padding will be removed also. But if we are giving the padding from the upper widget, making it like 10 from bottom, and decide to add some extra widgets here, padding will stay. So it's not always a good idea. Just keep it in mind, which elements are maybe hidden later on. For now, we're going to use health and stamina, check that it is variable. That's it for this widget. Let's go back to the HUD. But I think, why do we have 2 health bars and where is the stamina? That's a good question, so let's first fix that and then go back to the HUD. For now, let's go back to stat progress bar. As you can see, we have health and progress bar color for now. We need to expose these 2 parameters so we can modify them outside of this widget and do our settings in player stats. So, doing that is quite easy, and this is a very convenient workflow for most of the tasks that you're going to meet during your UI journey. We don't need construct and tick events, but we need pre-construct, which is the event which is called even an editor. And we need, for now, we need to do 2 things. First, drag label, get label, and set text. This way we can set text to the text that we require. We can type health here just to keep it like a default value, but actually we need to drag from here and promote it to variable and name it label text. Second part is to drag our progress bar, get start progress bar, and set fill. Set fill color and opacity. That's the color of our progress bar. If we set some color here and drag it and promote to default value, this will be the default value. We can just promote the variable and check it here. We need to do compile to see the actual variable. And for now, let's make it red. Label text is already done because we put it here before. It's health. Let's organize everything and connect it to pre-construct node. So basically, widget is now initialized by these variables and not by the variables that we put like here or here. You can click on the root widget in hierarchy and you will be able to see these default values like label text and color. We can change it here. We have to press compile so everything works. Now we can change it runtime and see how it affects our widget. But that's not the fun part. Fun part is that we can expose these parameters. Let's go back to the graph and toggle this eye icon both on label and color. Maybe we should rename in color to this bar color. And we can also change the category here from default to settings. We can type it for one parameter and second one we can just drag here with the mouse. Compile, save. And let's go back to player stats. Now, you can see that these variables are exposed here, so we have the control over the display in the player stats widget too. So now we can type here mana, and we can change it to blue. After that, you can remember that we don't have mana, we have stamina. So let's type stamina and change it to green. As you can see, the layout acting a bit weird. We compile, save, and go back to start progress bar, designer, get our size box, and toggle fill here. Compile, save, get back. Doesn't work as intended because we also can do horizontal adjustment. Type, click here, compile, save, player stats, and now everything is perfect. Basically, you can check how fill and alignment works, and it often helps you to solve a lot of issues. So now we have 2 bars, health and stamina. They are initialized here like by hand, by typing values and selecting colors directly, and later on we will improve it even further. But for now, let's make a pause and get back to the HUD finally. hot widget is going to be a pretty simple one. Let's go back to third person map, our UI folder, right click, user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, we add. There is a special class for hot widgets in Unreal Engine, but we're not going to use it today. For the simplicity, and the tutorial is already getting a bit long, so we're just going to use one user widget as a hot. And we're going to initialize it from a player. For now, let's open our hot. This time we're going to use canvas panel, which was a standard in Unreal Engine 4, but due to its heaviness, it can affect your performance. Like, not in the case when you're using one canvas panel, but since Unreal Engine 5, the default user widget doesn't have a canvas panel as a base, and that's a nice thing. Just keep it in mind that though canvas panel can seem convenient, it's not always a good idea to use it, and you can solve most of your layout issues without it. So let's add canvas panel here and add our player stats widget. Player stats, canvas panel. Few things to do. We can drag it here, but we're not going to use it. We're going to use anchors, and we can also scale it here, but we're also not going to do it. We're going to use size to content. This is a great checkbox because it sizes your widget automatically for you. And if you did everything correctly on previous stages, you will get the consistent and aligned results. And this is mostly how my usual workflow works. As for anchors, you can click here and you can see this anchor point. You can move it. You can select different options here, but we're going to hold Ctrl and Shift. You can see the hotkeys here, and just click on the left bottom corner here. This way our widget automatically goes to that corner. The anchor is set up here, and all that's left for you to do is to give some offset from left and from the bottom by using the position with 20 and -20 on Y. And then that's it. We're going to get back to the hut. One more thing, but for now we can compile, save, and go back to third person map. Next, we're going to add HUD to a player. Let's go to our third person character. In case you closed it, it's third person, blueprints, third person character. We have our damage event here, some default input events, and the begin play function event, which is called when the game starts. We can add few calls here. We need to create our HUD widget and we need to add it to the screen. So right click, create widget. We can select our WHUD, connect it here. Have return value of this is the created widget. We can promote it to variable just to have access to it. It's not a bad thing here. And we need to add this HUD to the screen. Add to viewport. Okay, seems good. We can go back to third person map and hit play. And yeah, we have our HUD on the screen. But the damage is not working because we didn't connect everything. As I promised in the beginning of the video, I'm going to show you the incorrect way to do the initialization of data. Because it's actually very often seen in other tutorials, and even when I was interviewing people to our company, I still saw them still doing that. So don't do this, don't try to follow this, just keep in mind that it's not a bad idea. It's not a great idea to do that. Basically, you have this, let's go back to stack progress bar. With most of the values, you can see this bind button here, which allows you to automatically bind and update to any variable from our characters. So let's do not do this at home. You can click create binding, and this will be called every frame, so like 60 times per second, and the value of this progress bar will be set to whatever is here. Worst case scenario, you can do like get player pawn, like get it directly from the world. You can cast it to what's our pawn, third person character. You can get his stats component, and you can get like current health and max health. Then map them. Current health from 0 to max health, from 0 to 1. You can put it here. Compile. What does it? Oh yeah, because we didn't connect it here. Compile, save, launch. And as you can see, our progress bars are reacting to the damage, both at the same time, and this call is happening 60 times per second. So this is a terrible solution, don't do it. We're just going to remove it from our start progress bar, remove it from here, compile, getting an error here, and remove it by this arrow. So by not this arrow, Ctrl Z to cancel this arrow. Here, remove binding. So it's so terrible that I even got confused. Now let's go back to a normal pipeline and see how we actually should do the update of any data in our user interface. Basically, you always want to separate your data from the user interface. This is done through different programming patterns like model view controller, which is often used for UI, or you can check the MVVM plugin from Unreal Engine. It's available since Unreal Engine 5.3, if I'm not mistaken, and it provides a lot of useful tools to separate data from the actual UI. For our tutorial, we're going to use a simpler approach. The player has stat component, which handles the damage, the stamina consumption, and so on. When something happens, it will fire an event notifying everyone about the change. We are also going to initialize our widgets with that component, and the widget will bind to this event, constantly looking for any changes and updates. When something happens, like player takes damage, the stat component will fire the event, and the widget will get the actual health or stamina or whatever from the stat component and visualize it. We can even improve this architecture by removing the direct linking to the stat component and making the widget abstract, but that's a theme for another our tutorial. So for now, let's simplify things and start implementing it. Okay, first we have to improve our stats component and add event there to notify everyone about the stats changes. So let's go to stats component. We already have this deal damage function here, which will print string in the end, and after that we're going to call an event. We need to add event dispatcher. In the left part, click plus and give it a name on stat changed and drag it call event. So now after getting damage, this component will fire an event. Compile, save, get back to first person map. Next, we're going to initialize our stat progress bar with this component. We can open stat progress bar widget, go to graph. We don't need preconstruct, like leave it as it is. We need custom event. Right click, custom event, initialize with stats component. You can add input here with plus and select stat component, stats component. I should have picked easier naming for it. Call it in stats component. Check if it's valid. Is valid. Just to double check everything is fine. And if it's valid, you can bind on event on stat changed, which we just add. So if you don't see it here, don't forget to compile and save your stat component before that. So bind event. That's almost it. You can see this red node here. You can drag from it and type create event to create customized bread event, which will handle the stat change. So for now, select function, create a matching event. We name it handle stat change. And we also need to store this stats component during the initialization. So in stat component, if it's valid, you can drag from here and promote it to a variable. Name it stats component and connect after binding. This way, we're going to use this component here. When something has changed, we can get the actual data from the component. When I showed you the incorrect way to use widget binding to update data, we actually did a useful thing there and mapped the values to a progress bar value. Now we have to redo it again, but this time in stats component. So we can actually use it here on our update event. So let's go back to stats component, and this time we'll create a function. So you can see functions here, plus sign, and name it get start value. Not value, get start percent. Oh, it's a bit weird percent, but let's use the naming convention that we have. Basically, at this stage, we're going to use our health, get current health, get max health, and we map them using current health map range clamped. Current health from 0 to max health will be equal to 0 to 1. So this way we're getting a fill percent for our progress bar. We can just return that value, and we will improve this function later on, so you can see why it is a function and not a direct call. Also, you can use pure function modifier, so this function wouldn't have execution nodes, and it's simpler to use in the UI. Also like internal things related to that, but we're going to skip them for now. So we have get stat percent in our stat component function. Let's get back to stat progress bar, handle stat change. We can drag our stats component, get it, and get start percent. So you can see there is no execution pin, just the value of stat percent, and it's already mapped from 0 to 1. So we can get our stat progress bar, call set percent, put it here, connect, and it should work. But we don't have this part ready yet, because this initialize with stats component is not called. So let's fix it. Compile, save, and get back to first person map. Let's use our HUD widget and our player stats widget to initialize everything. Let's go to HUD first. If you forgot where it is, it's UI W HUD. This is our HUD, this is our graph. Let's set custom event. Custom event initialize with stats component. The same event as we used in stat progress bar. Input stats component in stats component. Compile, save. And also check if it's valid. And now we have to get our health bar and stamina bar. For now, let's just use health bar and initialize it with our stats component. So we can get player stats, which is our container widget. From it, we can get health, and health as a stats progress bar, we can initialize it with stat component. So that's it. We can improve this by replicating the same code in player stats and calling it there, so we're not calling child widgets functions from this HUD. That's not critical for our current situation. Compile, save, and we have one more step to do. Let's go back to first person map first. Last step is to get our player pawn, get HUD from there, and initialize it with our player stats component. So BP third person character, if you forgot, it's in third person, blueprints first person, third person character. We have this begin play when we're initializing and creating our HUD. We can outcall init with stats component here. Put it here, get our stats component from the player, put it here, compile, save, and it should work fine. Let's try it. Now the damage is handled correctly, and everything is event based. Oh, that's great. So what else can we do? Let's think about it. When I was preparing for this video, I found an interesting problem which I wanted to show you, but sadly it was fixed by me. But let's replicate this scenario. Let's go to Start Progress Bar, Designer, and as you can see we have field set to 1, which I made while demonstrating you how this works, but the default value was like somewhere around here, like 0.69, 0.75. So just to have some empty space. Compile, save. This is just the default value, we didn't do anything. Third person map, play. Now you can see that health bar is not filled, but when we're getting damage, it updates to a new value. And this leads to the problem which we avoided, but actually it is existing. So our initialization in start progress bar graph, we're initializing our widget. We've been binding to this event, we're storing the stats component, and we're handling the stat change. But this stat change will be called only when this event fires. So if our initial progress bar is set to 0 and we initialize everything here, when the game starts, the player health bar will be at 0. So to avoid this, and this is a very good practice, we can just call handle stat change after initialization. And this will solve our problem. Now the health bar is initialized correctly, and we have by default health as 75, so everything works fine now. But we can still improve a lot of things. So let's do it. Next, we're going to expand our stats component and make everything more universal. Let's go to stats component. We have this getter function, which is nice, but we also want to handle stamina here. So let's add 2 more variables, current stamina and max stamina. Compile and set the default values. Stamina will be 50, max would also be 50. You can also make these variables public, so we can modify them in our stats component in our player pawn. So toggle eyes, compile, save. So getting to the hard part, we're going to use enumerator to give our stats component more flexibility and to untie the UI from the direct binding to this current health and max health values. So let's begin. Let's go back to our content, right click, blueprint, enumeration. Enumeration is a list of values with human readable names which we're going to use for our stats. So let's call it eStat type, open it, and add two enumerators. First will be health, second one will be stamina. Save, go back to first person map. Now we're going to use this enumeration to update our get stat percent function from stats component. Let's get back to it. Get stat percent. For now it works only with current health and max health, and we already have stamina and max stamina. We can add even more stats like mana or poise or whatever. But at the same time we want to use the same function to get the data from this stats component. So let's add an input value here. Call it stat type, and type will be eStat type. This is the enumerator that we've created. Compile, save. Basically, with enumeration, you can do two things. You can either call switch on them, which will give you the execution nodes for each case. Like if you're calling this function with health, function will go this way. If you're going to call this function with stamina, it will go this way. The second cool option is to actually change this part. Now let's make a copy of it. C Ctrl V, remove current health, value. You can use select node, which is also very useful. It's the bottom one with this arrow icon. And you have this index, which is wildcard, which allows you to use different enumerations, integers, booleans, and so on. So we can actually pass our stat type here. And now this value will be selected from this or this based on this. So we can track current health and current stamina, connected here, remove max health, make a copy of this, connect it to range B, and use max health and max stamina for the same input. Max health, max stamina, and the resulting value goes here. We can remove this part and connect everything here. So now our stats component is actually able to work with a lot of different stats. And as you can see, I forgot to connect here. So let's connect it here. That's way better. Compile, save. Next, we need to update our onStatChanged event and add our parameter there. You can click on Event Dispatcher, go to Inputs, hit plus, select eStat type here, and give it a name, change stat. Compile, save. We're now having a lot of errors. There will be more errors. So let's go to this new param. As you can see, as we added the parameters to event, everything is broken. You can right click and select refresh nodes here. This will update everything, and you now can compile and save. At the same time, you can see the second problem. We only have the event for health, and we have this deal damage function, which is a bit concrete for this component. So let's fix it too. Basically, we want to replicate getStat percent and make changeStat. You can use either event or function. Let's go with event. Custom event, changeStat. It's going to take two input values. First is going to be stat type, and the second one is going to be change amount. And amount. Amount. How many titles can we do in the amount? Basically, we're going to do the same, but we're going to use select node to handle which values are we changing. So let's break everything and combine it to one universal event function. Don't need deal damage anymore. And we need to change this by doing select with arrows, getting stat type here. So now we're subtracting either from current health or current stamina. And clamp max should also be select, copy paste, max, it's max health or max stamina. Don't forget to connect index here, and we lost something here. Let's change amount. So now it's dynamically selected. Current health or current stamina will be used as a base for subtraction. And now we have to choose which variable to change here. This can be done by using, for example, switch node. Let's try to use it. So if we're changing health, we can just connect it here. And if we're changing stamina, let's select max stamina, connect it here, and connect it to the same output. We also don't need print string anymore, and both these options should lead to notification, which is also connected to here. So now we have one universal function to change stat, clamp it, and send the notification. Compile, save, person map, and let's start to fix bugs that we just created. If you try to launch the game now, you will encounter a lot of errors. So let's go to our third-person character and check what's broken here. As you can see, we changed the we removed the deal damage function, so we have to remove it from here and just call change stat. This will be health, change amount. Okay, connect, compile, save. We also probably have a lot more errors in our user interface, so let's check everything. Stat progress bar doesn't compile. That's great. Our initialization function broken because we're printing onStat changed event, and we changed the signature of this event. Before that it was check it in stats component, event dispatcher. Before that it was without parameters, now it has stat type. So to fix this, we have to check our event here, go to it, and add the input parameter too. Stat type in stat type. Compile, save. Now this part works. Let's check other things. Okay. Damage zone is okay. Stats component is okay. The health is still updated. That's a good sign. Okay. Now we can actually implement the stamina, and you will finally see why we took a lot of steps to get to this point. We can use enumerators not only to select data, but also to switch the widget state and provide an easy way to configure your widgets. So let's try to do it. We can drag stat type, get stat type, and basically we want to remove this label text and progress bar color. Just hit delete on both of them. For text, We can call select node, stat type. For health it will be health. For stamina it will be stamina. And the same for color. Select, stat type, copy, paste. Health will be red, stamina will be green. This way, when you want to add more stats, you will just add them to your enumerator and add new values here, and your initialization will be done. Also, we'll expose it here. Now we can hide this default label and progress bar color. Move stat type to settings. Remove label and progress bar color. We don't need them anymore. And also there is a bug with our initialization. We're using health here, but we should use stat type here. So connect it here, check everything again. Looks okay. Compile, save. Go to designer and select the root element in hierarchy. And you can see we have stat type here. You can toggle it and it changes the widget automatically, which is pretty cool. We can compile it, save, and go to our player stats. Go to designer, and now we have 2 health bars. For the second one, we can just pick stamina and everything is done. So you can actually do a lot of this enums and parameters. Use basic widgets with customized behavior to create your user interfaces. That's a very cool feature of Unreal Engine. Compile, save, third-person map. We have to do one more thing to fix everything. If you hit play now, you can see that our health is working, but our stamina is not. So let's go to our HUD. And as you can see, we're initializing only health here. We can easily fix it by taking our stamina bar and initialize it to the second target. Compile, save, third-person map, play. Now our stamina is working too. Oh, it doesn't do anything, but it's initialized to 100%. And that's it. The last thing we're going to do is add some stamina regeneration and stamina consumption, so we can see how everything works. Let's go to our first third-person character. We have damage and we have jump. After jumping, we can consume some stamina. So let's get stats component. What's a value called? Function called stats component change stat. Okay. For change stat, select the type stamina and change it by 5. Connect it to the jump. Compile, save, go to map. As you can see, stamina is not updating for some reason. Let's check everything. Change stat. Here we have type stamina. For stamina, we're selecting max stamina. This is max, it's current stamina, and we're setting max stamina, not current stamina. So let's get current stamina, drag it, and change this. Compile, save. And now, when we jump, stamina updates correctly too. And the damage zone works separately, which is very nice. Last step would be to add some stamina regeneration to our third-person character, just to demonstrate how everything works. So let's go back to first-person character, third-person character. Get to our begin play. Now we actually have a special component for it, so let's go to this stats component. You can right-click on it and go through edit stats component. So this is our change function, and we can just add regeneration function here. Let's make a custom event, call it regenerate stamina, and we'll be calling change start -1. This is not a great solution, but just to keep the function working as it is, and have switch it to stamina. So, like when we add timer, every second stamina will be changed by -1, and this will be current stamina -1, so +1, clamp, and current stamina will be updated. You can probably do second enumeration to mark consumption or addition of stats, but I can do just like that. And lastly, we need to call this event by some kind of timer. So right click, begin play. This is our basic event for this kind of logic. Set timer by event. You can drag event from here to here and set time to 1 and enable looping. So each second regenerate stamina will be called. Compile, save. Damage is still working. Stamina is regenerating slowly, as you can see. That's basically it for the tutorial. Hope it was useful for you, and let's go to conclusion. So, to conclude, we did a lot through this tutorial. We created a player HUD widget with initialization by stat component. We created a container for player stats and a separate universal stat progress bar, which can be initialized with stat component and can change its visual state based on enumeration. We also looked through incorrect ways to initialize widgets with the data and did a lot of correct initialization through events and enums. So I hope this was useful for you. Project files are available in the video's description. Feel free to use comments to share your feedback or ask questions. I will be happy to help you. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.